at Riverside Community Hospital. I'm also the vice president of this here union, SEIU 121RN, which represents nurses here at Encino Hospital behind us, Encino Hospital Medical Center. We're here today to talk about workplace violence in our hospitals, a problem that seems to be increasing year by year and is beginning to plague our profession. We all have our stories. I've had my stethoscope wrapped around my neck as a new grad. I've been cornered in a room by an aggressive patient. Workplace violence in hospitals is a national problem. This is a public health issue. According to the study, and nurses love their evidence-based research, according to a study published in the Journal of Emergency Nursing, workplace violence in hospitals has been increasing over the past decade. The study found that between 2005 and 2014, the rate of workplace violence incidences in hospitals increased by 110%. You're about to hear from some of our nurses from Encino who had to deal with workplace violence. But before you do, I want to provide you with some context. In just the second quarter of last year, more than 5,172 nursing colleagues were assaulted. That is more than 2 assaults every single hour. Last year at this hospital, that statistic became very real. A man presenting as a patient was able to walk right through those emergency room doors with a knife. While he was being evaluated, he stabbed one nurse, and then another, and then he stabbed a doctor. So why only one metal detector at one of the entrances? This is the nurse's worst nightmare. It is a fear we must contend with far too often. The attack here came just a few days after medical staff was shot in a hospital in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Just a few weeks ago, people were shot in Atlanta. Hospitals have become soft targets. Some hospitals do better than others by having enough security, training, metal detectors, and other ways to intercept and de-escalate before a situation becomes too dangerous. But even after this horrendous attack, do you think this hospital is one of them? No, it's not. Do you know why most hospitals refuse to place metal detectors in their entrances and exits? They don't like the optics. It's bad PR. Or the gaslighted version, it'll scare our patients. But let's be honest. This all comes down to their patient satisfaction scores. When will employee safety carry as much weight as their bottom line? You might wonder what happens when a hospital doesn't supply enough security to prevent violence. I can speak from experience. It's on us, the healthcare workers who are placed in harm's way. As a nurse, we have committed ourselves to being patient advocates. But let me be clear, that advocacy does not include putting our own lives at risk. Hospitals must do a better job protecting nurses and all hospital staff. This hospital must certainly do better. Overall, workplace violence is a serious issue that can have significant physical and psychological impacts on healthcare workers. Nurses here and everywhere just want to feel safe at work. It's not too much to ask. Now we're going to hear from Gloria Mateos, a registered nurse and a leader at this hospital who's been calling for change. Woo!
Hello everyone, my name is Gloria Mateos, Gloriamateos, and I have worked in the ICU department of Encino for the last 10 years. And we often get assigned to work in the emergency room. So that is a unit we know really well. And I am close to my colleagues that work there as well. And I am here today because I want to make sure they are protected. that is not what happened on June 3rd of last year when two of my co-workers and a doctor were brutally attacked by a patient with a knife. 1 year later, we still don't feel safe. Today, we are calling for a change, but sadly, this is not the first time that we ask the hospital to do a better job of protecting nurses. We have asked Prime, the company that owns Encino Medical Center, to improve their security plans and their procedures. We came to them before this event happened, and we knew then that the emergency room was, unprotected. And the emergency room is a very important and vital part of the hospital. It is the gatekeeper that keeps the rest of the hospital safe. Many patients arrive in this emergency room agitated. Nurses must do their best to assess them and ensure they get the help they need. But it is difficult to focus on giving someone the best care when you know there is no one to protect you in case things escalate. Months after the attack, the hospital finally installed one single metal detector at the entrance of the emergency room, right there in the back. But this is not enough, and this is one of the things we asked them to do. The hospital has many other entrances on the other side, and through those entrances, someone can easily come in off the streets with a gun and repeat the attack one more time, and maybe this time with deadly consequences. We want to provide the best care for our patients, but the fact is that working here can be very, very scary. We feel the hospital does not care about security or whether we feel safe and confident when we come to work. After the attack, management pledged to give us crisis counseling. So many nurses just needed someone to talk to, or someone, to brief them about the incidents and what their plans were to prevent this from happening again. That help never came, and that spoke volumes. They have told us they would improve training and that we can use if something like this ever happens again, but serious training has never occurred. They say they have a comprehensive work violence policy, but most of our nurses here, we don't know it exists. Instead of being proactive, management seems content with checking the boxes on what they are legally required to do. And sometimes they fall short of that. The bottom line here is that they say they do care. Words won't prevent another attack from happening. Actions will. I am on my union's contract negotiation team, and improving security is one of the main issues we have been pushing as we negotiate our next contract. We have called for management to include nurses in designing a better plan to protect staff from work violence, but unfortunately, instead of embracing our good ideas, they have rejected even having us involved. We are the ones who work on the floor. We are the frontliners in case of an emergency, and we know what must be done to keep us safe. So why doesn't the hospital listen to what we have to tell them? That's all I can say this morning. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you, Gloria. Next, I'm going to bring up Homer Marmol, another nurse from this hospital right here in Encino.
My name is Homer Marmol, Homer Marmol. I'm an RN President Stewart for Encino Hospital. I have been a nurse in med-surg at Encino for 20 plus years. I'm here today to advocate for my coworkers. We have safety issues at our hospital. I'm hoping that management will collaborate with staff about how to improve safety concerns we have in our hospital. My coworkers have faced workplace violence in the past, and we are traumatized. We are at risk in fear of being attacked. All of us are at risk working in an open, unprotected hospital. For years, my friends and colleagues in the ER have been telling me they are afraid of being victims of violence, as they are the first to encounter patients coming from the community. Many years ago, ER charge nurses were asking for a protected glass in the secretary area. We've had instances of violence from patients. For instance, there was a strong, aggressive man that went through our double doors in the ER and started attacking our staff. He was throwing chairs, grabbing anything he could to attack staff in the ER. ER staff was traumatized from that incident. At that time, nobody got hurt. After that occurrence, our ER finally got the safety glass barrier window that they've been asking for. But still, it took months to be installed due to budget. Work violence is nothing new, as we deal with different people from the community daily. ER nurses have been warning management, calling for increased security for years. Then a year ago, the worst imaginable thing happened. 2 of our nurses and an ER doctor was stabbed and badly injured. This tragedy should have been a wake-up call for the hospital management. The danger doesn't get any more real than that. This incident caused psychological trauma to staff. Staff felt that the hospital's responses to the incident was totally inadequate. Our ER nurses who got stabbed felt lack of assistance from the HR department. It took a demand from Cal OSHA for a single metal detector to be installed at one of the doors. We currently have single security guards manning the outside of the ER. Yet, we hear talks about downsizing on security staff. We had security at one of the entrances, but we had a security at one of the entrances, but they took that away. We still have possible entrances that can be infiltrated by someone with a weapon. We fear we have to fend for ourselves. We have to constantly be on guard and try to avoid danger. We rely heavily on our de-escalation skills. Our current search and seizure policy requires staff to conduct search, which could be a recipe for escalating a potentially dangerous situation. We are nurses, not police officers. We are putting our bodies on the line when we come to work at this hospital. We should be able to work in a safe environment, and we should have a say on how we are protected when we come to work. I'm hoping that management will collaborate with the staff on how to improve the safety concerns that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Homer. It's now my pleasure to introduce Jesse. It's now my pleasure to introduce Jesse Gabriel, assistant member from California District 46.
Thank you very much, Monique. Good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. My name is Jesse Gabriel, J-E-S-S-E. Last name Gabriel, G-A-B-R-I-E-L. I represent this community, the San Fernando Valley, in the California State Legislature, in the California State Assembly. I am very proud to be here today, and I want to thank Monique and Gloria and Homer and all of the brave RNs who are leading the charge here. And I want to add my voice to the cause. More importantly than representing this community in the legislature, I am the son of a nurse, so I know firsthand how courageous the folks are behind me. And I just want to take a moment and reflect on the fact that we are coming out of a pandemic where for 2 years, these people walked into hospitals where so many in our community were homes, sheltering, trying to avoid others. They put themselves in harm's way. And this is pre-vaccine. This is when people didn't know what the consequences of COVID were. They didn't know what would happen anytime they walked in. Any patient that they encountered might put their life at risk, and also went home knowing that they might put their families at risk. And yet they stepped up to the plate. They sacrificed for our communities, and what they are asking for today is so simple and so straightforward. It's frankly outrageous that they have to be here asking for it. They want a safe working environment. They want safe working conditions. That is the bare minimum that any employer in the state of California should provide for their employees, and it is especially the bare minimum that any employer who employs folks like this who have stepped up and given so much of themselves to protect our communities. That is absolutely the bare minimum. They are also asking for something else very simple. They are asking to have a seat at the table and a voice in the process. And one of the things that I've tried to do in the legislature, because of my experiences that my mom has a nurse, because of what I have seen with our healthcare heroes, is give these folks a voice in the process. These are frontline caregivers. These are patient advocates. These are people who understand probably better than anyone else, and certainly better than management, what is happening in their hospitals and how you can create a safe environment for patients, and how do you create a safe environment for the community? How do you create a safe environment for healthcare workers? Listen to these folks. It's really, really simple. You know, one of the things that my mom and dad taught me, and one of the things my mom taught me as a nurse, is that actions speak louder than words. And if this hospital cares about the community as much as it says, if this hospital cares about its patients as much as it says, if it cares about its workers as much as it said, take some very, very simple steps. Create some basic security so that when patients and members of the community and people, the workers who work here day in and out, when they walk in those front doors, they deserve to feel safe. They shouldn't have to worry that someone, God forbid, is going to attack them like what happened last year. This is the most basic and simple and reasonable request in the world. And so as a member of the legislature, I am committed to standing in solidarity with these folks. They deserve from this hospital, from Encino Medical Center, exactly what they are asking for. And frankly, that community deserves this. When people in this community come in here, they deserve to feel safe. When people in this community come in here, they deserve to know that the people taking care of them aren't stressed out because they're worried about their own safety. They're going to get better patient care because of that. So I just want to be here again to support SEIU 121RN, to support the incredible nurses at the front lines here who are healthcare heroes, who have done an incredible job for this community, and just say thank you again to all of you for the incredible work that you are doing to protect our community. We appreciate you, I appreciate you, and your elected officials stand strongly behind you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jesse Gabriel. It's really nice that you always come out for us, always support us, and have always been there for our issues. It's now my honor to introduce Rosanna Mendez, our Executive Director of SEIU 121RN.
Hi everyone, my name is Rosanna, R-O-S-A-N-N-A, last name Mendez, M-E-N-D-E-Z. As Monique stated, I'm the Executive Director of SEIU Local 121RN. And the first thing that I want to do is thank all of the nurses who spoke here today. It takes a lot to be able to speak up about the kinds of issues that they're dealing with. Especially on the anniversary of the attack that took place in the Encino emergency room. It isn't easy to speak up, and they're courageous for having done that. As the Executive Director of 121RN, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about the safety of our members, and I'm shocked about what I've learned in terms of the lack of steps that the hospital has taken to protect not only nurses, but the other healthcare workers in this hospital, the other patients and visitors that walk through the doors of this hospital every day. Management, unfortunately, has displayed an attitude of indifference when it comes to workplace violence. Nurses already deal with severe understaffing that gets to the critical point. They also deal with a lack of support staff and resources with which to do their jobs. They shouldn't also have to come to a workplace that is unsafe. That needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed immediately. As you've heard from nurses about what happened a year ago here, nothing that happened has led to significant change in the way that the hospital has dealt with workplace violence and overall security. Management knew before that there were problems, because nurses in the emergency room told them so. They told them there were problems. They told them they didn't feel safe. But they failed to act. The deficiencies that they alerted management to were confirmed by a Cal OSHA investigation that took place in the aftermath of the attack. Some of the things that the investigation found, I will share with you. Most of these were the case prior to the incident, and they are still occurring. When Cal OSHA visited weeks later, what they found was that the hospital did not have an adequate workplace violence plan in place, as required by law. They found that the hospital did not create an effective security plan to check for weapons. They found that the hospital did not have adequate security in place. And they didn't provide employees with annual training on workplace violence, which is also required. Management's position, unfortunately, is that everything is fine in their eyes. They even appealed the fines that OSHA issued. Prime Healthcare doesn't believe that there is or was anything wrong in this hospital. The fact that they didn't even provide trauma counseling, something they pledged to do, shows how little they care. Given the inadequate way this hospital has treated workplace violence in the past, and how they are treating the situation now, we believe they need guidelines to keep this hospital safe and secure. They need to be held accountable when they fall short. So here's what we're proposing to address some of these issues. The hospital should meet with nurses to create and review comprehensive workplace violence prevention plans. The plans should be available to nurses at all times, in writing. It should be specific to the hospital unit, the service, or the operation. It should not be a corporate plan. It should not be a one-size-fits-all. It should also include procedures to identify hazards, to implement training, and to investigate incidents promptly. Finally, the hospital should commit to a zero-tolerance policy on harassment and on workplace violence. What happened here a year ago must not happen again. We have offered solutions. Now it is time for the hospital to listen. At this point, it is a lack of will, not a lack of ability. They must listen, and they must listen now to protect their employees and this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosanna. That commends our speech here today. And I just want to say, this should never happen. Just like Rosanna just said, this should never happen. Nurses should never feel worried or scared, or even just the thought in the back of their mind when they're trying to finish their shift. Imagine that. Who else is this happening to? Why is this happening to nurses? I want you to really think about that question. Why is this profession? Why does this happen to us time and time again? A profession that's predominantly female. The martyrdom of nursing stops now. We have to stop that rhetoric. What other profession is this happening to? This is done. Encino Hospital needs to do better. Nurses should never feel scared or have that thought in their mind when they're trying to finish their shift. Thank you all for coming. Woo!
Can you tell us the condition of the nurse and the doctor? Are they still working here? Are they good spirits? What's happening to them?
I can say that one of them didn't even want to talk today. Because, I mean, the trauma is real for that person. Think about it. Yeah, everyone wants to talk about the pandemic being over, right? We still walk into the halls of where our trauma lies. So, my brother, a U.S. Marine, did 2 tours, came home. He left his trauma site. He has PTSD. It was my brother that realized, that told me, Nick, you have PTSD. Why? How do I have PTSD? Oh, I suffered a traumatic event. That was the pandemic. These nurses, when we suffer a traumatic event, we still return to our traumatic place. So unless something changes, unless you protect your nurses, nothing's gonna change for them. Offer them therapy. Therapy and Lexapro saved my life. The nurse was too afraid, and it's really telling how many nurses are actually out here right now because, with us that work at this hospital that are too afraid to speak up. That's super telling. Where are they? Management has them so silenced. true. Are you a nurse? That's true. That's what you get. That's true. That's how silenced workers are.
Thank you both.